But now, what about California Girls?
California Girls, the track was being done by my cousin Brian in Studio 3 in Western Studios with the Wrecking Crew. It was a great track. That intro is almost, it's like a prelude to some kind of great piece of music. And the track was going on, but he didn't have the words. So I stepped out in the hallway while they were still finishing the track and wrote out, I want to give the accolades to all the great girls around the different parts of the U.S. East Coast girls are hip, Southern girls, the way they talk, Midwest farmers' daughters, Northern girls, the way they kiss, keep their boyfriends warm at night. So it was just it's kind of a travelogue from a young guy's fantasy. And then it talked about all the girls around the world and Hawaiian Island dolls and by a palm tree in the sand. And then the chorus, wish they all could be California girls. That's Brian Wilson. He came up with the brilliant high parts and did all the vocal arrangements and stuff. But I came up with all the lyrics for that song. And it's one of our favorite songs.
It's one of the favorite songs of a lot of people.
Yeah, fortunately.
Tell me, in brief, if you will, how Good Vibrations came to be.
Good Vibrations was a monumental effort. It started months before the song came out. My cousin Brian went in with the best studio musicians in L.A. They called themselves the Wrecking Crew. It's so funny how they got the term the Wrecking Crew, because all the more respected musicians that played in symphonies and various orchestras and big bands thought that these guys would wreck the business because they're doing rock and roll. So they became the Wrecking Crew. But they were brilliant and great musicians. And he would go to a Gold Star recording where Phil Spector did his stuff to get a certain sound. And when I say he, I mean Brian. And he would go to Studio 3 at Western Recorders on Sunset Boulevard because it had other sounds. And so he did 3 or 4 or 5 studios. And we ultimately did the vocals for the single record. But this took several months because he did sections of the track and experimented with the different sections and different sounds and different tempos. So the composite was finally put together, and I was due to write the lyrics, and I put it off, and I'm pretty good at procrastinating. And so I wrote the words. I dictated a poem while I was driving in our XKE to the studio on the way to the session. And I dictated to my then wife, Suzanne, who was pregnant with our daughter, Haley. And I said, take this down. I love the colorful clothes she wears and the way the sunlight plays upon her hair. This was 1966. The track was incredible. It was so unique, mystical sounding with the theremin going on. Nobody had ever used a theremin in rock music. But
what is a theremin?
A theremin is it's electro-theremin. It was invented by a Russian inventor, and it has this weird sound. You've only heard it in scary movies and TV shows and stuff like that. It was an eerie sound, but it was brilliant with Good Vibrations. So I came up with the lyrics just on the way to the studio, and my cousin Carl sang it beautifully. So it was a real, it had the structure of all this different studios and different types of experimentation, but it had the spontaneity of the lyrics that I wrote about a girl who was all into peace and love and flower power. It was 1966, and the psychedelic era of music was going on in Southern California.
I know it's hard to choose. What's your own personal favorite?
There are so many favorites, Dan, because it's about your mood. We did a song the night of November 23rd, was it? In 1963, my cousin Brian and I got together and wrote this beautiful, haunting melody, beautiful song, great harmonies, and were awakened in the morning to the news that President Kennedy had been taken to the hospital in Dallas. So, we all know what happened there, but it was a very sad, melancholy song, and the lyrics were not changed to conform to that event, but it was about the loss of someone you loved, but still you had felt that love at one time. And so even though it was not great how it ended, there was still something good about it. And in a sense, the same thing. President Kennedy was not great how his life ended by any stretch of the imagination. But there was a lot of idealism and positivity in his messages and what he represented to the United States and to the world.
Picture California, 1960. What's going on out there, and what are you trying to capture in your music about it?
Well, what was going on is practically an idyllic setting for us, middle-class kids growing up in Southern California. My grandfather, Love, and my grandmother and grandfather Wilson, they had the good sense to migrate from rural Louisiana and Kansas to come to California, which is where I was born, and my cousins were born. So my grandfather called California the ultimate, which I think that was right on. He came from outside of Shreveport, Louisiana to California and worked very hard in the sheet metal industry and provided us a really good life and in a beautiful environment. Southern California in the late 50s, early 60s was fantastic. We were just a few miles from the beach, the mountains, the desert. You know, we'd take vacations to go to Mexico on the weekends, and it was a fantastic experience growing up.
Well, one of the many things the Beach Boys have been known for over the years is the vocal harmonies of all of you. How did you reach that unique combination of vocal harmonies?
The harmonies that distinguished the Beach Boys from so many other rock groups came from my childhood growing up. Every holiday, every birthday party, every special occasion at my house, my mom was such a fan of music that everything centered around music. I mean, you could have the uncle that's not talking to my dad, or you could have somebody didn't pay somebody back or got drunk at a party or embarrassed somebody, or you didn't always get along, maybe 100%. But music was the bond that brought everybody together. And the singing of 2 and 3 and 4-part harmonies, that was something we loved to do. So the essential ingredient, I believe, in our music is the love of getting together and creating those sounds together. And because we're brothers and cousins and so on, I think there's a sort of a genetic kind of aspect to it. You know, the Everly Brothers had such a beautiful blend.
They did.
They harmonized. They were a big inspiration to us. But then the 4 freshmen were these fantastic musicians and great singers with these great intricate chord progressions that inspired us and made us want to achieve more in our particular abilities. So those were the inspirations, but the basis of it all was the love of getting together and harmonizing. And that had nothing to do with music or fame or fortune or any of those kinds of aspirations.
Well, what's been the best of it? Let's face it, it's been a long, mostly good road for you, at least professionally. Personally, we'll talk about a few things later.
Yeah, cool. I figured.
But what's been the best of it? Where was the absolute best moment for you?
There's so many great moments. I'd say 3 years ago, we were backstage and a young girl who was a Make-A-Wish type girl. She was going through some challenges health-wise, 10 years old. And I asked her, what's your favorite Beach Boys song? She says, 409. Well, 409 was the B-side or the flip side of the 45 single Surfin' Safari with the backside being 409. It was about a hot Chevy car, you know, and so that blew my mind. It came out 40 years before she was born, and here it is, her favorite Beach Boys song. And to see all ages, senior citizens down to children loving the music and families all together getting together enjoying something together. That's pretty rare these days, you know. I mean, everybody's so segmented and fragmented and going this way and that way, and their electronic stuff and this kind of music and that kind of music. The Beach Boys music I sometimes call it a sonic oasis. It's a place to get away for a song or an album or an evening out, and the entire family can enjoy it.